So everyone should be able to hear me right now. Correct? Awesome. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the NAYGN 2021 Profiles in Leadership event. Please refer to the attached presentation in the event Outlook invite to follow us. My name is Danny Awad, and I'm the chair of the professional development with the NAYGN Durham chapter. A quick safety moment for those of us at home. Just be mindful of any hazards near you, and please pay attention to your ergonomics. Make sure you stretch during the break. And now a little bit about who we are as NAYGN. So NAYGN stands for the North American Young Generation in Nuclear, and our mission is to provide opportunities for the young generation and nuclear professionals to develop leadership, professional skills, engage and inform the public about nuclear, provide networking opportunities, and form lifelong connections. I also wanted to introduce the team members who volunteered for this event. Eddie Zhao from Pickering Operations, Judy Afana from Darlington Construction Engineering, and of course, Stan Vichulo from Darlington Work Control. Thank you so much for all your help. The theme of this event is adapting to change, a topic I imagine most of you are familiar with, especially considering the recent events over the past 2 years, and more recently, with most of the staff returning to the office. Changes were all around us, even here at NAYGN. We had to adapt with the times and figure out a way to continue with our mission of advocacy and outreach. An example of a big change would be this event, which is the first ever online PIL, Profiles in Leadership event. As you can see, we had to adapt to the COVID pandemic, and wearing masks and maintaining social distancing is just one of the things that we just had to manage and do. Before we begin though, I do want to take a moment to recognize First Nations history and heritage and remind everyone that this event is being held in the area now known as the municipality, which is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas and Chippewa of the Anishinaabe, known today as the Williams Treaties First Nation. Our work on these lands acknowledges their resilience and their long-standing contributions. I also want to recognize those of us who could not work from home over the past 2 years and continued to work diligently throughout the entire pandemic. Now on to today's agenda. If you check your presentation slide, you'll see that once we are done with this introduction, we will have our first panel interview with Sean Granville and Steve Gabouris, where they will discuss how leaders respond to change. Following that, we'll have our second panel interview with John Frost and Zar Nansahid, who will discuss innovation in nuclear. After that, we'll have a 10-minute break, and then start our final interview with Karen Fritz and Roberta Ryans, focusing on mentorship. Lastly, we'll have a quick networking activity and then finish up with some closing remarks. But before we start our first interview, please take a moment to watch this video message from our leadership team.
Hey everybody, Yost Eating here, Project Director in Darlington Refurbishment. So there's kind of two parts. The first part is the more technical side. So when a change is happening, whether it's planned or unplanned, make sure you use the resources around change management. The second and more important part is just around the people part of change. Every individual deals with change differently. So when you're moving a team through change, make sure that you're empathetic and that you're working through this change with compassion, and understand that it may not go as planned. Be able to be agile and pivot as you work through the change. Thanks very much.
My name is Luca Chicato. I'm the Director of Work Management here at the Darlington Nuclear Facility. The number one priority is that you need to be adaptable. I would share, as a leader, you need to embrace it. Change is something that will be part of our industry. Change provides opportunity, and it usually means that the organization's moving forward. As young leaders, as you guys are, you're going to need to communicate that to your staff. They will want to know why. When you communicate, that takes up about 90% of the resistance most of the time. A good communication strategy, letting people know the reasons behind it, and then you can get that embracement from the entire organization. We're influencers, And then when we influence, we need to give people context. Change is part of where we're going in this organization, especially in the nuclear industry.
Hello, Val Bavacqua here, plant manager of the Pickering Nuclear Generating Station. I would say I adapt to change by embracing it. Leaders are change agents. I walk around and I see things I don't like. It motivates me to change it. I think a lot of us become leaders because we see things that we think we can fix or make better. Probably one of the best parts of being a leader, whether it's a change you initiate yourself, a change that is coming from above, from your leaders, or a change that you're supporting from the people that are working for you. Thanks for watching, and please have a safe day.
James Holtz here, fit and maintenance manager at Pickering. Over the years, I've learned to embrace the change, to have a heart and a mindset that sees change as an opportunity to grow, to develop, to learn something new. There's something that I can gain from this that will make me a better person overall. There's always a silver lining to the way that change is, whether it's a process, whether it's a job. There's always a benefit to it.
Hello everyone, Ryan Howard here. I'm a project director in the refurbishment organization. If you know change is coming, then you need to plan for that change. If you have a known change, make sure you develop your own change management plan. Make sure you put effort into it. Now the tougher part of the question, what if you didn't see the change coming? You need to collect data at the time. You need to make a plan, and that plan won't be perfect. And always remember, you are resilient. You've done hard things. You've made it through this pandemic, and you'll make it through that challenge if you stay positive. Thanks.
The only thing that's been constant is change. You have to learn to adapt to it, and I think that's different for different people. There's some things that you have to do personally as well. You have to make yourself a little bit vulnerable if you truly want to learn. How can I contribute in a positive way? And you have to step outside the comfort zone, because that's what change is all about. Whether it's small modular reactors or micro reactors or new hydro development or hydro redevelopment, hydrogen, electrification, there's all kinds of opportunities there. You know, sometimes I wish I was towards the beginning of my career rather than the end of my career, because it's such an exciting time and there's going to be so much really interesting work and impactful work, impactful for the economy, impactful for the industry. It's certainly an exciting time to be in the industry that we're in.
So hello, thank you very much for coming. My name is Eddie Zhou. I'm an Operation Innovation Specialist in Pickering Nuclear Generating Station. And today we have our first topic will be leaders adapting to changes. First, I would like to welcome the first two speakers, Sean Granville, OPG's Chief Operating Officer, as well as Chief Nuclear Officer. And his 39 years of experience in nuclear, including Point-La-Pearl, IMPO, and Wano. And he also plays a very active role in nuclear waste management organization, as well as women in nuclear. And to my right, we have Steve Gogoris. He's currently the Senior Vice President of Darlington Nuclear Generating Station. And he has served several management positions, including Certified Shift Manager, Operation Manager, and recently the Director of Operation and Maintenance in Darlington. So both speakers have very impressive resume. I'm sure the audience and myself can learn the advice from them and apply into the future career. Without further ado, let's get into our first question. So first, I'd like to start with Sean. So what are some of the biggest change you have seen the last 2 years, and how did you manage to make it successfully?
That's there's been a lot of change. Everybody, I think, that's been in the business, certainly at OPG, a lot of changes happening. But I'm going to step back a bit before and basically poll the audience, like, do people like change?
I don't.
So it's a mix, right? So and so why is it that people change is good for some people and not so good for others, right? And to me, one of the key differences is young people have babies, right? It's a huge change. They do it intentionally, right? And so it's a heck of a change. You know, with COVID, they've been buying pets, which is kind of similar. generally speaking, it's a change that they initiate. So they have control of, they have input into, they feel like they're part of it. It's something that sort of works with their belief systems. So I think that's one of the biggest things about change, is that if you feel like you've had, you've been kept informed, you've had some input, you've been part of it, you probably embrace change because it's fun and exciting. If it feels like it's being imposed on you, then it's going to be something that's you're maybe going to resist, right?
Yeah.
And it, we all in our life, work life, and our home life, there's some things that you have control of, some things you don't have control of, and so it's not all the changes are exactly the same. So I think that's, you got to think about that in that sort of concept, construct. Relative to change. Now, I'm going to bring it back to the question you actually asked, Eddie.
Yeah. So what is the biggest change you have managed in the last 2 years?
So we did, I think the biggest one, for us has been this, creation of enterprise operations, where we pulled together, we looked at the company and said, hey, there's a ton of stuff going on, and we need to be good at a few things. We need to be good at figuring out where the next lines of business are going to be. So that's why enterprise strategy is about figuring out where we want to grow the business. We want to be able to build things and be able to actually execute projects, be the best at managing projects. The biggest one is right here in the Darlington Refurb project. So have an enterprise projects organization. But fundamentally, we're an operator. So pulling the best of our the full operations team together, I think that was something that was the biggest personally to manage, to say, hey, we want to be not only be the best operator, be seen to be the best operator. Because then what happens is all those future opportunities that are being, the strategy team's looking at. If we are the best operator and we are the best project manager, those opportunities are going to be ours to have.
Perfect. And then, Steve is leading, the IMPO Level 1 WANO first best recognition awards in Darlington. What do you think? The biggest change you have managed in the last 2 years?
So thanks, Eddie. I just want to go back to what Sean was saying, and when I was listening to the video, and I heard everyone talking about change, and it was all positive. And to Sean's point, I'll tell you, I don't always embrace change, and we can't assume that everyone is going to embrace change or any change that's put their way. Forget about that. But what I'd say is this: that's normal. In fact, I think that's healthy, right? Because Sean is my boss, and a lot of times, Sean has lots of ideas. Let's put it that way. And those ideas usually come with change, and it's healthy to give a bit of challenge to that, right? Because change takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of leadership, and in the end, you gotta make sure you know where you're headed and you're going to be in a better place. So I'd say if a change is coming, and whether you're part of that change or feeling like you need to jump on and be part of that change, not necessarily feeling like you embrace it right away, that's okay, that's normal.
Yeah, I just, when I talked about the ones where you're part of the change versus it's imposed on you, like no one was part of the COVID change.
Right.
Right? That was this, this thing that came, that was sort of external threat that actually, has happened. And what I will say is the team at OPG that did an awesome job in terms of handling that. We're all here in masks, 6 feet apart. We never missed a beat on the generation side. The project side, we were able to adjust and very quickly adapt. And so I think it's a testament to the really good people we have at, across the whole enterprise.
Absolutely. So Sean talked about a huge change in going from basically nuclear operations to enterprise operations, and so I think that's a great example of I'll say a really significant change where you need a change in mindset, and I can't just think as a nuclear person anymore. I got to think across to RG and other areas of the business, and how RG has things that can help me be better, and how I have things that can help RG be better. And I think so part part of a change and a significant change like that is really to understand what's the vision, what's in it for you in the end, and knowing that, then you can move along with why, how are you going to motivate people behind it, how are you going to communicate it and get some quick wins and build on those wins so that everyone understands that, wait a second, this is the right way to go. We need to get on board and make this change. So I think the one that Sean brought up is an excellent example, and I wanted to maybe give my perspective on a change that Sean brought to all of us, because if I didn't lead that way as a nuclear person, where I wanted to know what RG was doing and what they had to offer to make me better, and let them know that, then it wouldn't work, right? I've got to be all in there, as different as it might be.
Awesome, yeah, exactly. Like as an operator in Pickering, I noticed there's more collaboration between RG and nuclear, and that really, I guess, developed the relationship better. Like talking to RG's Campbell Ford, their SPA robot, and, the experience sharing is very valuable. As they can see, they never work in a nuclear facility where they proceduralize everything, but we still have been creative, innovative, finding ways to improve our process. Perfect, and I continue to see the upcoming changes, and that leads to the next question for our discussion is, so what are some of the changes you foresee in the future that can really benefit our community and society? We'll start with Steve.
Sure. Well, it's in front of us right now, right? So climate change, the climate's changing, right? And so how are we changing as a business to fight against climate change? And then from that, what do we want to do as a company, and how do we want to change our business to take up that fight against climate change? I mean, I see that as the biggest item. And then you can drill right down. So small modular reactors, that's right in the nuclear wheelhouse, and the change with that, like that is changing the nuclear industry, right? And how we're not going to build big plants like Darlington or Pickering. They're going to be very different. So with that change, what does the organization look like? Who's on site? What are the different managed systems for that reactor or fleet of reactors? Because it can't be the same. It's got to be different. Be different because we know much more today, because we need them to be financially viable, and because technology is here to help us really do things differently, and it'll be just as safe, might even be safer. So what I'd say is climate change, and with that, different ways that we're going to change as a business to take up the fight, and SMRs is right in the middle of that.
Yeah, you're right. Climate change plans on our front page of OPG. I guess Sean can add, provide more insight on what do you think is, the COO, where we're heading as an organization.
Yeah, Steve's, the climate, like our climate goals, right? The net zero by 2040, support the broader province and country to get the net zero by 2050. I think that climate pledge is essentially, given us that's the purpose behind all the things we're trying to do, right? So I talked about change being, you may be change resistant, but if you feel like it lines up with your belief system, I think that most people believe that, hey, we need to save the world. It's probably a worthy cause, right? And so lining up behind it, I think, is really good. So it helps sort of get in your mind, hey, this is why we're marching this way. And so I think you heard Mike Martelli at the end of the video talking about SMRs, micro SMRs, hydrogen, electrification. We're doing the TTC, we're electrifying all the TTC buses. We want to go beyond that. So really making a difference, here, continuing to make a difference here. So I think that's really, really important. Now, there's one change that's also on the horizons that is going to be a challenging one, and Eddie, you're at Pickering, right?
Yeah.
Pickering's good. The end of life is approaching, right? And so we need to recognize that. But it's really important we want that last day to be the best day. And then we want to basically, it's really important that we, from a legacy perspective, that we can look back and say, that was a fantastic plan. What it contributed to in terms of climate, but also we're not leaving Pickering. We're not leaving Pickering, right? We're gonna. It's cradle to grave. We're gonna deal with the putting in a safe storage. We're going to deal with decommissioning. We're going to repurpose. We're going to do that's going to be a key asset for us. And do I know all the answers? Do I know exactly what? No, I don't. And so that with lack of certainty, people get they get worried. I mean, quite rightly, they get worried. But what we're trying to do is paint a picture that, hey, we want this company to grow. We want this company to be better tomorrow than it is today, and we want people that are part of that.
Very good. Well, that's a perfect gateway to put into my next question is, what kind of, everyone want to be a leader. In your opinion, what kind of skills and behavior you want to be observed in one individual that have potential to be a leader like you one day? So I'll start with you, Sean.
Leadership, right? There's a ton of different theories. I think one of the things measures of a good leader is when they leave a department or area, does the performance drop off? Did they leave a team there that can continue to do better? Does a leader develop other leaders, or are they developing followers? Right? And so we're trying to, as a company, facilitative leadership is really about building up and growing leaders. And I think that is really, really important because we're all going to be here for a finite amount of time, and it's the superhero CEO or superhero leader is not really the model. It's building a team that's resilient, building a team that will continue to then build their team. And everybody in every position should be thinking about who's going to be doing my job next. I gotta have a few people that can develop to do it. And you have that mindset. I think that's how strong organizations and healthy organizations continue to grow.
Awesome. Definitely taking notes from that advice and develop myself. And I'll turn to Steve. Anything you want to be observed from individuals like Danny over there?
I'll maybe just carry on from what Sean was saying. And when you're looking at leadership, and part of moving forward is change, right? And change for the better. And so people that are open, so even though you may not necessarily line up or embrace the change, being open to understand so that you can then accept the change and then align up with the vision, like I said, and the just what you want to achieve, I think is important. So openness to new ideas and different ways of doing things and change. I would say it's also important to be critical, right? Because you can't just make change to make change. There's got to be purpose there, and like I said before, you're going to invest a lot of energy, and so you want that energy to take you in the right direction. You don't have to be exactly perfect, and Sean will tell me that 100 times, but at least directional, and you'll figure it out. And then, I think, as a leader, you got to have energy, you got to have passion, you got to feel it personally so that others feel it and feel that energy, because that's a great way. And everyone's different, right? Introverts may not think, hey, I'm going to do it that way, but certainly then communicate it in a personal touch. To me, personal touch is a big piece of just reaching into people, understanding their challenges with a change, and how to maybe talk through those challenges so people better understand the change and how they can be part of it. And so to me, if I was ranking all those things you asked me, what, as a leader, how do you be a good change agent? I think is my summary of it. It is about the personal touch in the end.
Thank you very, very much for sharing that. And like you mentioned, the one point you mentioned is you have the energy that help you, working hard every day, and that's one of our actually audience questions, like what motivates a leader to working that hard, to make that change and to be a leader and lead a team. And I want to hear from Sean, like what motivates you? I understand your grandchildren coming, and having a clean future for them is a big priority for you. And anything else that motivates you, inspire you to make that change and be the leader?
Well, to me, I think it's the seeing the growth of the team, seeing the team grow and the performance go. We all, you've done different jobs. I've done many jobs through my career, and you're there for a certain amount of time, and the goal is to leave it better than you got it, and sort of incrementally improve and build a team behind you. So to me, that's the most fun is actually seeing the growth in the team. Eddie, you said I did spend 3 years at Point-le-Pro in New Brunswick, and that to me, seeing the growth of that team over that time period and beyond, and what they've been able to accomplish since, and using this essentially the same fundamental sort of change plan we built in there. So that's to me, I think, is really seen, because a lot of projects that we do or go over multi years, it's hard to sometimes always see where the finish line is, and so I see it more in the people and how they respond and grow, right? And that's to me, I think, is what I enjoy the most.
Awesome. Okay, I think that wraps our first section, and I didn't bring a pen, notepad, but there's a lot of knowledge shared over there. I'll go back and review, and hopefully the audience can pick up a point or two and apply to themselves and develop the skills that we need for the future. And maybe one day, one of you or myself can sit in the chair and providing more advice for the future audience. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie.
Okay, so hello again, everyone, and welcome to the second panel interview where we will discuss innovation in nuclear, what to expect and how to prepare. We have here today with us two individuals with vast experience in the field, and are likely the most qualified to speak to the topic of technological innovation. Our first guest speaker here today is Jean Frost, nuclear engineer in residence and associate professor at Ontario Tech University, and president of Frost & Frost & Associates. Jean is an electrical engineer by education and led a long career which entailed working in 10 countries and taking on 17 different roles in 5 different companies. The roles in his career included nuclear plant shift manager, technical manager, director site support, VP nuclear security, chief nuclear engineer, VP engineering and projects, and lastly, president and CEO of Can-Do Owners Group. Welcome, John. And our second guest speaker is Zar Sahib, vice president of generation strategy and innovation. Zar is also an electrical engineer who leads a long career at OPG, which started in 1989 when we were formerly known as Ontario Hydro. Zar has a diverse portfolio as he held various positions across the company, starting as commissioning engineer for containment systems and joining the nuclear safety teams shortly after. Zar also completed the shift supervisor program, working as a CRSS, shift manager, and assistant ops manager, CFAM for ops, authorization training manager, operations manager at both plants, and plant manager at Darlington. Zar most recently also held the director of station engineering and fleet asset management. Welcome, Zar and John, and thank you both so much for joining us today. All right, and allow me to start this interview for those of us watching at home. So first question for you, John. What technological changes and advancements do you see on the international stage and in the academic world that you believe would significantly impact the nuclear industry? And can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Well, sure, I've been able to do a lot of work internationally, so some things won't be new to you guys. Thermodynamics, for example, wasn't invented yesterday, and so it's pretty constant. But when I started, I thought I knew thermodynamics, and I found out when I went to the shift manager program, I still had a lot to learn. So you might think you know the basics, keep at it. Even at my age, I learn something new every day. The amount of technological information is growing exponentially. So when you signed up for a career in this industry, you signed up for learn something new every day. You kind of look at the spectrum around the world. Even here, when you heard the previous speakers, you're looking at new ways to decommission plants. You're looking at new ways to operate plants. You're looking at new ways to manage information. When I was your age, everybody talked about the digital age. Well, now you guys are on the brink of the artificial intelligence age. So so much potential that comes from that. You guys are, we're in the middle of it actually. Every time you pick up your phone and it shapes the advertisement that you're seeing based on your preferences. That's AI at work. So all around our industry, there's this conflagration of there's so much opportunity, but there's risk as well. And so you guys are really going to have an exciting time to try to get the best from AI while you manage the risk of AI. I don't particularly think it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of the Terminator kind of thing, but a mistake in coding, for example, or an algorithm, it's a different kind of human error. So that's a big one. Waste, of course, is big. New ways to deal with waste, minimize it, retain it, maybe reuse it. Big issue in our industry with the public and all around the world. Waste, climate change, of course. We take some things for granted. We dump a lot of heat into our Great Lakes, for example, and 2/3 of the energy that you guys make in your power plants go in the lake. Well, if we have enough power plants, the Great Lakes become the great saunas, and so huge challenges all around. In the kind of people side, if you look around the world, other countries, if you want senior jobs in nuclear, you have to have master's degrees or PhDs. So Asia, for example, is big in advanced degree. The constant learning important because constant change. The shift manager program was a fantastic program for me. So you guys have advanced degrees, you have online learning, you change a lot faster than we did in my era. So I'm an electrical engineer. When I graduated, everything that all the electrical engineers around the world knew was on the shelf and I had read. But now, like for you guys, any topic there's new stuff every day. So and it's a global world now. Competition for us was, I grew up in the Clarington area, so if I competed against other people in Clarington. You guys can compete around the world. They're all hungry, everybody's learning, so the technology explosion is something that you're going to have to learn to manage. How you can, some basics in a 4-year degree. Europe does a lot of 5-year degree now, a kind of trades 1 year, a long internship. They're your competitors. So, if Asia's looking at master's degrees and PhDs, and Europe's looking at kind of you were an electrician and now you're an electrical engineer. Well, that's what you guys got to compete with. So, over at the university there, we'll get you to the starting point, but that's a starting point, isn't it? You're going to have to learn every day. That'd be my thoughts there, Danny.
No, well, thank you so much, John. That was very insightful, and I actually appreciate how you emphasized artificial intelligence. I mean, as a mechanical engineer, I always think, oh yeah, thermodynamics, fission, maybe even fusion, but you know, artificial intelligence makes perfect sense that it would be the next big thing. So thank you for that. So just following up, building up on what John was speaking, do you see OPG adopting any of these changes that John discussed in the near future or at all? And if not, can you maybe tell us, you know, what kinds of innovation should we expect to see within OPG?
Sure. So, you know, John mentioned a lot about AI, and what I'll tell you, it is here at OPG. And you know, for example, we use a tool that will help our maintenance assessors do an assessing of a particular work package. So for something that used to take hours and maybe even days to research, this program now, through AI, it can look through various databases, understand what it's doing, and pull in data that's needed within minutes. And that's not really taking the role away, because that individual then has to check the accuracy and the veracity of the information that they're getting. But what I'll say, it takes away all of that mundane searching and clicking and all that effort. And the accuracy that we're starting to get from the programs like that is amazing. And really, it's learning. Like humans learn, it needs to be taught to learn, and it's actually starting to do that. So AI is here. It needs to be treated as a friend as such, and it's really going to be used in many different applications. What I'll say is things like robotics. We are putting AI within robotics. So we have a Boston Dynamics Spot, which is a sort of a robotic dog, and really that right now is through kind of a controller that you control the dog and you move it around and so on and so forth. But really, what we want to do is make it autonomous, such that it knows the route, it knows what it needs to do, it knows what pictures it needs to take for comparison, and then come back and park itself and charge. If it takes data and takes pictures and so on and so forth over a period of time, AI starts to analyze, well, what are the changes between those kinds of things. So AI is here, it's coming fast, and you know, as you said, it's not something to be feared, it's something to be looked at with drive and really working to embellish what we can do with it, and make it a very solid tool for us, because why have a person do mundane activities where the tools that are available to us can do that, and people can do much more meaningful activities and drive those roles. So the other aspect of it is safety, right? So why send a person into an area that's particularly harmful, environmentally harmful for that person? Send the robot in, let it do the initial diagnosis, analysis, understanding what we have to do in the planning, and then that person can go in and finally do something that is much more efficient and much safer for that individual. So as I said, many of these technologies are here. Something as simple as using sensors. Every so often in river systems, you have to measure the temperature of the river. And that's for environmental reasons, for fish spawning and so on and so forth. So what we've been doing is sending a person 2 hours north in a remote plant, dropping a bucket in the river, taking temperature manually, and measuring the temperature and writing it down and then coming back. We now have a sensor that monitors 2 points in the river. It sends the data wirelessly through to a remote station. It tracks it every 6 hours. You can see the trends in water. That person doesn't have to drive the 2 hours. That person can do something much more meaningful and much safer. So all of these technologies are there to make things safer, easier, faster. And so this is an exciting time to get that efficiency towards our work as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's really good to see that both OPG and the international standards are up to are quite aligned. It seems, seeing how AI seems to be the next best thing, like you said, across the world and in OPG.
And we're really beginning our journey, right?
Right.
We really are beginning our journey. There's just so much out there and that's why one of the things we do is we work with industry, we work with vendors, let them show us what they're doing, and the bright imaginative minds that we have in OPG can say, there's a good use for that. Why don't we try this thing? And it's all about innovation with purpose, right? It's not just innovating for the sake of innovating; it's innovation with purpose. So.
No, that makes perfect sense. So that's good to know. So it seems like there's a lot of changes that we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years, and I mean, makes sense for us to be excited, but some can be a little bit weary, I suppose. So I mean, given all the changes that we do see and that we anticipate to see within both OPG and generally the industry and academia, what advice would you give our future nuclear professionals and leaders so they can keep up with all these changes?
Well, I'd start with, it's really an attitudinal thing. If you kind of look at each day as if I didn't learn something new today, it was a wasted day. That attitude of not fearing change, but being part of it. I've been at this a lot longer than you guys, and I learn something new every day. And it's an exciting part of it, isn't it? What a great career to be in, that you can say, I've worked 46 years now in this industry, learn something new every single day, not just from formal courses, but from colleagues. Sometimes I even learn something from my dog. Like the source comes from everywhere. So just be open to that constant learning and grab opportunities. Our industry talks a lot about OpEx. OpEx is learning. You learn from experiences of others. Get engaged in networking. You have a good organization here, but join a CSA committee. Subscribe to the CNSC website so that you're constantly seeing change. Join Women in Nuclear. We're blessed in our industry with a lot of good infrastructure, and it's really up to you. You can sit in the sideline and watch, or you can be a participant. And every conference you go to, you come away and go, wow, I didn't know that. You guys also have access to online information like never before. So, really no excuse to say, hey, I wasted today and I didn't learn something. Now the challenge for you guys is there's a lot of, let's say, questionable information out there, and learning the ability to discern what's legit from, what's just nonsense is part of being able to, build your knowledge and skill set. So, get in the shift manager program if you can. What a great program. Second to none. I got university degrees. I studied all over the world. I will tell you that program for me was just, bar none, best thing ever. Leadership, it's not just the techie stuff, right? Nuclear is a team sport. So, the learning isn't just about AI, and it's about the people stuff that Steve and Sean talked about. How do you, the leader's job is really simple, I think. It's just, my job as the chief engineer for your company was make my people the best they could be. If you get up with that kind of mindset, well, the rest is, it just flows. So, but those people skills are equally important. So take challenging assignments. It's another way to learn. Through my career, the company came, tapped me on the shoulder a couple of times, and they went home and said to Judy, I'm not sure I can do this. Well, don't be fearful, right? Jump in and stretch yourself. How do Olympians get better? They work hard and they stretch themselves, right? That constant, I want to do more, I want to do better. So get engaged, have that attitude of learn something every day. Learn from your peers, from your bosses. Sometimes the kernels of wisdom come from the strangest places, and just be engaged.
No, absolutely.
And Danny, if I can add, the other side of the coin is obviously the technical stuff is very interesting. Many of us love that and really live for it. But as I said, when it's innovation with purpose, there's also the financial benefits. We have to look a lot at things like return on investment, right? And really start educating yourself in the market forces and the financial aspects of the business that you're in. Because without that part of the equation, you may not know other constraints that face the company or face the organization. And so it's really critical that you obviously understand the tech, understand the benefits of what it can do, but then what is the return? What is the benefit this is actually going to give you? Is it safety? Is it cost avoidance, cost savings? And understand that other segment of the business and take the courses that get you that information, read about it, stay hungry about things like that as well. So that's the other half of the equation. Sometimes we don't always see that.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, no, thank you both for this input. I mean, it's really good to see both of you again aligned on this, and it's personally for me, it's a little inspiring to see two individuals with such an accomplished career still very, very eager to learn and very passionate about it. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, especially that you don't sometimes you don't see that quality in people that are much less accomplished. So it's definitely inspiring to see that. Well, so thank you both for answering my question. And now we do have a couple of questions from the audience that maybe we can run through. So first question to you, Czar, where do you see our industry and OPG in 10 years? And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Wow, 10 years.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
I'd like to mention that I've been in the industry for 33 years, so I still got a ways to go. But I've had an incredible career, and at a time when there has been so much change. And so where do I see us in 10 years? I see us operating a small modular reactor, right? I see us, at the beginning in the forefront of designing more small modular reactors or different technologies that will generate clean power for ourselves. I see a company of leaders who know where we are today and where we are going to be going in the next several years, and are also there to teach their future generation. Right? And so, this company is 100 years old or more, and the people that started the company in the early 1900s, if you ask them where would they see this company in 10 years or 100 years, no one can foresee that. But in a 10-year time frame, we have technologies, electrification for our in Ontario. Who knows what the hydrogen business can bring us? It's kind of like if you have it, somebody will use it. So many different types of things. And the small modular reactors, like even the airline industry went through things like fly-by-wire. It was old stick and rudder type of technology back a few decades ago. That is the way we're going to control nuclear power plants now. And when Darlington and many of the CANDUs were designed, they were designed with computer control, which is really an unheard of thing in the nuclear industry. And so where is that going to take us? Right. Where is AI going to take us within that framework? So very, very exciting, and it's our job to launch that towards that next generation.
Oh, thank you for that. It's a great answer. And actually, it's funny because the next question, which is to you, John, builds off a little bit on what you mentioned earlier, Czar. John, how do you? One of our audience members is asking, how are SMRs going to affect the Canadian nuclear industry, in your opinion?
Well, that's a tough question. That's like a crystal ball question. Because it's not just about technology, it's marketplace, it's societal attitude. So, you guys need to run your fleet very, very well to preserve the opportunity. And not just OPG, everybody on the planet that's running a nuke plant today has that shared responsibility to set the stage for great things for the future. So, that's the first thing that always comes to mind is run what you got to a high standard of excellence. Canadians have been, we've punched above our weight for decades in technology. When you think about can-do, back in the 60s, we were applying digital control when nobody else could figure that out. We have some very innovative Canadian technologies that are poised to move ahead. It'll be kind of that confluence of public acceptance, the economics, the societal need. I work with a professor, Dr. Hornwig. He's an urban center expert, and he talks about you guys will see a great urbanization, so huge cities. So it's only 70% of the people in the world in cities. Well, it could be that each city has a small modular reactor that powers that city. Who knows? Like you're to coin that, you're going to boldly go where no one's gone before, right? And you have an opportunity to shape it, don't you? You've got a couple of very important projects on the horizon in OPG with small technologies. Groundbreaking stuff. Well, if that is as successful as I know you guys are capable of making it, it sets the stage for make it whatever you want to make it. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a blend of SMR and bigger plants. I'm reminded that if 10% of the automobiles in Ontario go electric, you need another like Darlington power plant just to charge cars. Wow. So it's how far, how fast. So SMRs have a place, but wow, like we have a huge need for clean energy, much larger than today. So I think you guys have a really bright future. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be a blend. My guess is it's unlikely that SMRs alone will be able to keep pace with the energy hunger of the planet. So there'll be a mix of some big generation for big cities, and then the interconnection of those small things will be an interesting challenge, won't it? If we're little pieces, you'll be able to look down the road and go, oh well, that SMR that's running Hamilton, all their lights are on, ours is shut down. So how do you interconnect? So what an exciting time to be a young engineer. I just think that it's kind of like the 70s all over again. Let's rock and roll and make the future. Like when I was starting Pickering up in the 70s, had no idea it would look like it is today. And so best answer I can give you, I don't have a crystal ball, but 10 years I might not be on the planet. I might boldly be going where nobody's gone before. Who knows?
Well, I mean, it's amazing going through all these questions and hearing all these answers. There are a lot more questions that our guests wanted to kind of run through, but unfortunately, being signaled to, tell us like, okay, we're on, I'm gonna be on track. So, okay, no problem. Maybe we can send you some more questions offline, or maybe you can get back to our audience because they're definitely very curious about what you guys think. But that being said, I couldn't be more thankful. Thank you both very much for your time and for your insight.
All right, good evening and welcome back. My name is Stan Bishwu. I'm a work control team leader with Darlington Outages. So we talked a lot about changes in our industry and how we as leaders can manage that change. We've got a lot of different perspectives on the various behaviors that we can adopt, and I'm sure we'll all be taking that back and incorporating that into our personal lives and work lives. But one of the biggest changes that we can manage is the course of our own careers. And one of the key components of shaping that journey can be finding a mentor. So today to talk about this, we have Roberta Rains and Karen Fritz. Karen Fritz is the Chief Supply Officer for OPG, having spent over 22 years with the company and most recently leading the Darlington Refurbishment Turbine Generator Project. Karen is passionate about mentorship and leadership development and is focused on further developing diversity in OPG's supply chain and implementing long-term procurement strategies to support the future of clean energy in Ontario. Roberta Rains is the Director of Talent Management and Leadership Development at Ontario Power Generation, where she leads a team of HR professionals to develop enterprise people strategies and programming that help the organization achieve its talent and business goals. Prior to this role, Roberta has worked in across the enterprise in supply chain, regulatory affairs, human resources, and change management. She currently volunteers with Girls Incorporated of Durham to support strong, smart, and bold girls in their community and future energy workers. So with that, we'll get into our first topic for discussion. We'll start with Karen. So Karen, what do you consider a mentor, and how did having a mentor impact you and your career?
Thanks, Dan. So, I mean, I think a mentor can be a lot of different things. I think mainly it's somebody who you can learn from. It can be someone you admire or not, but it has to be someone that you can learn from and who can provide some guidance and be there to answer questions and have enough experience to point you in the direction that you need to explore. I can tell you, I'll share one story about a mentor. So early in my days at Pickering, I had Stan's job, best job ever, honestly. It wasn't called a WICTL at that time, but it was hugely fun, and I loved it. And at some point, the CNO at the time had sort of put a few operators on me to get me to apply to the program, to the shift management program. And so I had zero interest in doing that. I'm not an engineer, and in fact, I recently took the advanced operations course at former UOIT, and I struggled greatly. It was, I would say, harder than my undergrad in architecture, which was hard. But I have a lot of respect for people who go through that program, but I didn't think it was for me. But the person at the time kept pursuing it. And so eventually, after many times turning it down, a mentor was suggested for me. So it was the most senior woman in the plant at the time, who I didn't know. And I was connected with her, and we had a few sessions. And so I think the hope was that she might convince me, but in fact, the opposite happened through our discussions about, not about what I should do personally, but about what does this stream do for you in the company? Where would this lead to? What does the rest of the company look like after you're done working at this job? And so it really helped, honestly, to crystallize my decision. And sort of, I was thinking that my talents and my skill set is better serves the company in another area, which I think that I'm right. I was right about that. But anyway, I think that it's a great job. And I enjoyed being in the shift manager's office asking Steve to approve my work every day. But it wasn't for me, and I think maybe without that discussion, I might have pursued it because there was pressure to do so, and I honestly didn't really know otherwise. So that mentorship really shaped I would say, my entire career. Having those conversations, and they were, I would say, very honest conversations with, this is exactly what it's like, you know, what do you want, and sort of what do you see your future like. So I would say it played a huge role for me.
Nice. I love that story, and you know, just underscores the importance of, you know, getting perhaps some outside perspectives in helping us figure out what we're going to do with our careers. I know that's something that I've been figuring out and getting advice on, so it's awesome that it worked out that way. And I agree with you. Yes, work control team lead is also one of the best jobs I've had in the company. So love it. All right, Roberta, same question for you. Do you have any additional perspectives to add there?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, in terms of mentors and being a successful mentor, it's really important to have an open mind. It's important to share your experiences. But when it comes to being a mentor, I think it's also important to talk about what's a great mentee. And so as part of being a mentee, I think it's really important for you to be, you know, self-aware. What are your strengths? What are you looking to develop? And that's a partnership when I look at what makes a really great mentor is looking at what are you looking to develop as an individual. When you look around the organization or you look at around the industry, who do you see that you admire? Who does that really well? Because it's important to look up and it's important to look around. It's not about just looking for mentors in your own line of business. It's important to look at mentors across the organization. And when it comes to mentors in my personal development, they've played a huge role from early on in my career as well. And there's one particular woman who mentored me very early in my career, and she's retired now, and I still meet up with her all the time. But one thing she really taught me is to be confident, to put up your hand. One big thing she really taught me is you don't get what you don't ask for. And from a mentorship perspective, really encouraged me to look outside of what I knew in regulatory affairs at the time and expand my career across the enterprise, but most of all, to trust myself. And that's the biggest thing that I think, and from a mentorship perspective, I really took away is, starts with trusting yourself, trust what you do know, and then getting outside that comfort zone. That's where you're going to have the most growth in your career.
Nice. I love that part about trusting in yourself. And also, I think it's very interesting to note that, I'm sure most of the speakers on the call, or sorry, most of the attendees on the call are in nuclear, but we've seen examples where folks have been in different industries, and it shaped their careers towards the better. And looking for mentors outside of that industry can also open you up for other opportunities as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I think it's important. This is a huge company, right? There's lots of opportunities. We've heard, Steve and Sean and others talk about, learning more about RG, the new business opportunities. There's huge opportunities to work, different lines of business within the same company now. Being a part of that growth is important.
Love it. Yeah. Awesome. Next question. And we'll come back to you, Roberta. What person do you consider to be a good mentor?
So when it comes to being a good mentor, and I think we've touched on it a little bit here already, Karen and I. So I think it's about, the ability to offer advice, to be open to diverse perspectives, to be a great listener. I think that's a really important part. What does it take to be a really good mentor? Because listening is a really important part of helping people discover what are their goals, whether that's career goals, what the specific skills or behaviors that they're working on. Mentors come in all different ways as well. I think about those that I mentor and how much I get from that relationship. So I think when we think about mentors, it's not just about looking up the organization. I think it's just as important to look across the organization and also look down the organization in terms of how are you learning, right, from others as well. And so I think a good mentor depends on what you're looking to grow and develop at that point in your career or within that role.
That's actually a really excellent perspective on not just looking up, but also looking across. There are in fact folks who are part of this event who I'm learning from, who are peers. But yeah, that's a really awesome reminder. So thanks for that. And Karen, how about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say that a good mentor is someone who, again, I'll kind of go back to my other comment earlier, is someone who's brutally honest. So you don't want somebody who you're going to go have coffee with and have a great conversation and everything's great. Like, you want someone who's really going to give you, that best friend that you have who you do fun things with them, but when they need to tell you something that you're doing this ridiculous, or they're going to tell you. So I think that, if you have a mentor who either, is not your best friend, but you can learn something from that person, I think that's really key, because you're not going to learn if you're on the same wavelength with somebody. So I think, it's important that maybe they're a couple of levels different than you. They have more experience. Maybe they've been through what you're going through, or and they might know of your performance, even if they don't observe you personally. So I think that's also important, because then they get feedback and they can ask for feedback about, hey, you're in a lot of meetings with Karen. Do you have any feedback or observations that I could use in my discussions with her? And so I think that's important. And I do that for some of my, some of the women I mentor. I ask, to be invited as a back row in one of their meetings, so I can see how they're behaving, or we'll go, you know, on a plant walk down or something like that. But I think that it's really important for someone to be brutally honest, and also someone who understands what it is that you're going after. So, you know, it's from a mentee perspective, I sometimes get people who come to me to say, I don't know what to do, like with a blank page. And so that's not useful for me because there's zero direction. So I think, you know, Roberta mentioned it, you have to be prepared, and maybe not completely self-aware, but you have to be a little bit self-aware as to what you're interested in, areas for improvement, things that you're working on. And then I think you can sort of target a mentor in that way, because you know what you're looking for, at least a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. I like the part about actually having somebody who gives you that constructive feedback, because I certainly have been in a situation where, you know, I'm sure we're all looking to improve, and myself was looking for feedback. And if you're not getting anything that you can learn from or improve, then how are you going to better yourself, and how are you going to get further ahead? So while it could be uncomfortable to sometimes get that constructive feedback, at the end, you kind of need that to create an actionable plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just in a recent session with a mentee, and she brought up she came prepared with, hey, this happened to me last week. Have you ever experienced something like that? This is what I did in this situation, but I didn't feel good about it after, and it wasn't effective. You know, do you have any tips about what I could do next time? And so that was fantastic, because it works on a behavior that she was self-aware of, and I have been in that same situation so many times. So I shared my experience without giving advice, and she can take what she wants from that.
Right, right. And I think good tip there is, if you're a mentee, come prepared to your mentor meetings, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. All right, so next question, Karen, how did you go about finding a mentor?
So I don't think I've ever found my own mentor, to be quite honest. It's always been a matchup. So, you know, Roberta and I were talking about this earlier this week. I really believe that it's part of your manager's job to help you find a mentor at OPG. That's always been something that my managers and leaders have done as part of my development plan, because they see my development plan and they pick out the areas and they say, oh, you know what, I think this might be a good person to talk to. Go talk to them, see if it's a good fit, see if they like you, you like them, there's something to offer there. And I would say, you know, probably 6 times out of 7, like, it worked out. I think that the matchup is good, because your manager is really forced to understand then what you are looking for, and they are then in turn developing their employee, their staff. So I think that, you know, like Sean said before, are you developing leaders or are you developing followers? It's recognizing that person needs help in these areas. I think that maybe this would be a good person to go have an intro discussion with. And I would say most mentees that I have, they're referrals. So, you know, a director on refurb recently said, hey, you know, I have this manager, she's in training. I was telling her about you. She was telling me about what she wanted to do. Would you be willing to talk to her? So absolutely, I always follow up on all of those. So I think the matchmaking works really well at OPG.
Right, right, right. So really, I guess there is some aspect of the individual who's trying to develop, taking charge of their development plan and working with their manager on achieving the objectives and getting that matching, as you call it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And if the manager is not a manager who's going to do that for you, there are other managers and directors in the organization who will.
Right.
And you don't have to limit yourself to that department or to your immediate supervisor either. Like, there are lots of people you can talk to about, you know, hey, can I review my IDP with you? Could you recommend somebody who might have who might be able to help me in these areas? And it can start like that.
Right, right. Yeah, it kind of goes back to the earlier point that Roberta was making around reaching out to other departments and seeing where you go from there, right? Love it. Great.
Yeah, and I think Karen's making a really good point in terms of the role of your manager, but I also appreciate the own your career piece that you're talking about as well, because the key point that Karen had there, you can also reach out to others, and it goes back to, when I was talking about before, looking around the organization and, what are you looking to develop and who do you see that's really good at that? And there's no reason why you can't reach out and have that conversation. People are more than willing to have coffee chats. I always say to my mentees, okay, throw in the development plan there, no one's going to turn you down, right? So, having a development plan and working that into it, I think it's really important. And this is a great organization, and our leadership team really wants to develop people. It takes the courage though. And so working with your manager can help develop individuals, but you naturally, like you talked about, you have many peers or other managers you're working with. Look around day to day, who are you working with? And, you can reach out to others as well and have that conversation.
Yeah, awesome. So I hope that's a takeaway for folks who are watching online. You've obviously seen a lot of senior folks on here, and they're all supportive of personal development, leadership, and mentoring others. So, take that message to heart, take it home, and don't be afraid to reach out. So next question I have is, can you describe a successful mentorship relationship and what made it successful, Roberta?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of a successful mentoring relationship, I have to say last July I was a very proud mentor. I had 4 of my mentees move on to different roles in the organization. And those were like lateral roles, a couple promotions, but at the end of the day, they had identified what were their career interests in the organization. They've been reaching out, they've been having the conversations with their manager and being transparent around their career goals and where they wanted to move in the organization, but then reaching out and talking to those departments, and as the opportunities became available, applying to those jobs. But most of all, these were all new grads that had come in to the organization. I used to work in supply chain, and they came in through the supply chain new grad program. And one of the important things is we realized, we hired 10 new grads in supply chain that year. We hired them for the organization, right? They all had different types of backgrounds, and they moved on to different roles because, one, they had the courage to put their hand up. They had a clear plan. They worked the plan. And, I watched their confidence grow over time, having the conversations that Karen's talking about and then going and applying that and coming back and learning more. I think the biggest thing is just owning your own personal development and continuing to build on that, year over year.
Nice, love it. Great perspective. Karen, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think that there has to be a good personality match for sure. I think that the mentee's preparation is extremely important. I have a mentee right now, and she impresses me so much. Like when I was her age, I was not doing what she's doing. But she knows exactly what she wants to go after. But she's very humble in asking for feedback and sort of situational awareness. But she records every action from our last conversation. And, it's funny because, she's a millennial, which is different for me to speak to, but I find that her goals are very clear, almost too clear. And so, but it's great for me to talk to her because then I can see, the younger generation of the company and how they're thinking and how they want to move through the organization and different roles. And it's just, it's very good for me to learn about her and her peers as well. The one thing I would say is that she's so organized that you have to be careful what you say because she will remember. But so as a mentor, you kind of have to be careful a little bit because, your experiences are not everyone else's. So, you don't want to offer advice that is not good for her. Something else I get from several of my mentees is I get to find out what they're working on. So, actually in the innovation area, I get to find out lots of, it's good intel, to be honest, because someone, it just turns into a conversation about what they're working on. And then I can also share what I'm working on, and it helps them from a more strategic level, and it helps me, with an area that I don't get to see that often. So it's, which often leads to follow-up calls and conversations. So I find it beneficial both ways. The other thing that is good is in terms of being a mentor versus being a sponsor for somebody, you get to know somebody. So you get to know what they're good at, where they're interested in. So if you're an executive around a table and people's names are being thrown around, which is exactly what happens, there's somebody's name that, if you think they're a good fit and you can put their name forward and you want to be a sponsor for them, because a mentor and a sponsor is not the same thing. But if you want to do that, you get to know that person a bit better, who would otherwise be unknown to you because maybe they're in a different department, working on something totally different from you. So I find that is another part of my job and could benefit somebody else.
Nice. I like how you covered a lot there. So there was the piece around the preparation, right, and being organized, right? So today we have all these awesome tools like OneNote, and like I have my own file where I take notes, right? So we have the tools to be as organized as we want, right? And really follow up and prepare before your next mentor meeting. And then the other piece that you talked about is that it's a two-way street, really, right? So there's benefit on both sides. So I know sometimes some people may be shy about reaching out to folks, but as Karen has demonstrated, there's learning on both sides that can be happening, both on the mentor and the mentee sides, right? So I just love that perspective, Karen. Thank you. So with that, we did get some questions submitted by the audience. So we'll turn it over to Roberta with the first one. How should one approach someone to be a mentor?
Great question. Thank you. So in terms of approaching someone, I think we've been talking about different examples today around starting with your development plan, looking at what you're looking to develop. Karen and I have talked about, reaching out, having a conversation with your manager as well around what are you looking to develop, and if they have any suggestions in terms of individuals that they can match you with. I also think in terms of, talk to your peers, you can talk to both your formal and informal network as well, right? Let them know that you're looking for a mentor in a specific area, and you can ask people if there's anyone that they would recommend. We also this year in the Operations People Initiative, there's also a mentoring program as part of that. So there is opportunities that you can sign up for a mentor through that program as well. And so, I'm a big fan, and I might be really biased because I own leadership development. But I'm a really big fan of building it into your development plan. And when it comes to learning, mentoring does play an important role, but there's lots of other ways we can develop as well. So have a conversation with your manager and really explore what you're looking to mentor. But I guess, like I was mentioning before, don't be afraid to reach out and have the conversation. Meet someone to have coffee with them, like learn more about their department and what they know, and you'd be surprised where things may lead as well.
Great, awesome. All right, next question for Karen from the audience. Can you have multiple mentors?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it depends on what areas you want to develop. So I mean, there are leadership skills with, say you're a new manager and you're really impressed with someone else's leadership skills. There used to be a VP at Darlington that, I would always watch him speak to people because he just had a way of doing it that didn't put someone on the spot, and it was kind of like, it was just a very nice conversation, but it was a very formal ask. And I love that because I could never pull that off. But, so I would talk to that person about, how do you do this? What's your approach? How did you become, how were you able to become speaking to someone like that and create that dialogue? Other areas are technical, right? When I first took over the turbine generator, even though that was my SWIC scope at Pickering, it was more of a global perspective. So I needed to talk to somebody who knew about that industry globally. So I connected with someone in the UK who had that from a different company, same industry, but different company. And so that was a connection where, yeah, I needed that technical mentoring to sort of guide me through that part of the project. So it really, absolutely, the answer is yes, but it depends on what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one analogy, and actually goes back to where Karen and I originally met many years ago in a leadership development program. They talked about mentors as your personal board of directors. So think about, that's one thing I've always thought about. You have different directors that have specialties in different areas. So depending on what you're looking to develop, you'll reach out to a different director on your own personal board of directors. So I'm aligned with Karen. You can definitely have more than one mentor, and you reach out to different mentors for different reasons, whether that's in your personal and career life, and you may be interchanging those sometimes too, depending on, you know, what is your challenge, or what is the problem you're trying to solve, or what is the behavior you're trying to grow. So I'm definitely aligned with Karen on that.
Awesome, awesome. These are some great perspectives. So I really want to thank you both for sharing that today. I've certainly, you know, learned a lot. I wish, as Eddie was saying before, I wish I had my notebook up here so I could take notes, but I'll review the recorded video afterward. But, you know, I think the real message is, you know, I've been to other, you know, development conferences or this event, and I think the key thing is, you know, really take what you're hearing here to heart and take action, right? So you've gotten some really solid advice about, like, hey, how do I approach somebody? Who is the right person to approach, right? So what I would encourage everybody, you know, listening at home to do is actually go out and do that, right? Make sure that at the next Profile Leadership event, you're able to look back and say, hey, you know, I got mentorship advice from Karen and Roberta, and actually I took action. I met these folks, and now I have a successful mentor-mentee relationship. So with that, again, thank you very much.
A big thank you to all the speakers. Thank you so much for your time and for your input. We hope the audience tuning in at home have enjoyed this. I know I have, and now we are ready for this event's networking activity. So please refer to the activity slide on slide number 17 in the event PDF. It was included in your invite. But before we start with the activity, I just wanted to give a quick introduction, I guess, background story. So myself and Eddie actually came up with this activity. And the reason we decided on this activity was because of an interesting interaction that Eddie had with his neighbor. Eddie recently moved into a new house. Congrats, by the way, Eddie.
Thank you.
A few days after he moved in, he ran into one of his new neighbors, his neighbor Sam. After a quick introduction, Sam asked him what he does for a living, and he told him that he's a nuclear operator and he works in Pickering. A little concerned, he asked a couple of questions, and he said he had some concerns with the nuclear industry based on past events that he heard about, you know, Chernobyl, Fukushima. He expressed concern especially for all the ongoing nuclear projects near his house and the potential new builds that he keeps hearing about. So Eddie, being a nuclear advocate, he had to address his concerns, and he attempted to persuade him into supporting nuclear technology. So what did Eddie do? First, Eddie says, I put myself in his shoes. I said I plan to start a family in the Durham region, and I will do whatever I can to protect my home. Then he explained, I have a certain role in the station, and I use these operation fundamentals, and it's all very structured and heavily regulated. Lastly, Eddie mentioned that with the current trend of global warming, we do need nuclear more than ever. And in order to continue the fight against climate change, we all know that we need Sam's support and many more like him. So after this conversation that Eddie had with Sam, he could see that Sam was smiling, he was a lot more comforted, and Eddie believed that he addressed his concerns and possibly even got his support for the nuclear industry. So after I heard about the story, I decided that this would be a very good topic, or might be a good idea to have as an activity, because I can imagine that this is a very familiar conversation for many individuals here in this room and attending this event. So, that being said, let's attempt to practice these scenarios. So what we're going to do for this activity is as follows. We're going to split you guys into groups, guys and gals, into groups with even numbers. And what you will do is represent both sides of the discussion. So one side is going to express anti-nuclear concerns / fears. The other side will try and persuade them with pro-nuclear points of discussion. And that would be it for the event activity. We hope you all managed to challenge each other and managed to get a better understanding of the perspective of someone outside of our industry and how to better advocate for nuclear advancement. This concludes our 2021 Profiles in Leadership event. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we hope we left you with some thoughts on how to adapt to all the changes around you. Please refer to our presentation for some book recommendations from our guest speakers. If you're not already, please sign up to our newsletter and stay tuned for more NAYGN events. Thank you again to all the speakers and for all of you at home attending, and that will be it.